Well, good morning. Welcome to American Reversion. I'm Steve Smith. How are you all this morning? I have got a story for you today. I was waiting to do another one, and I might get back and do a second one today, but I just needed to get this out there right now. By the way, if you haven't seen the video that I put up last night of the Liberty Lanterns that Hondo Bob sent me, it's the one right before this one. Go watch it. Go watch it after this. And actually, it's best watched at night. That's kind of why I put it up at night. And if you haven't seen it, you'll understand why when you do. I also want to thank, and I forget whether it was here or on Integrated Preparedness, but thank you to Doc Galt, who who always helps me out when I forget, or if I consciously don't say who these videos were brought to you by. Always jumps in and gives and does it himself on my behalf. These are always brought to you by the Stonemont series, my books. And if you have any interest in, preparedness, survival, America, the collapse of our country, how to rebuild it, things based on the fundamental principles that most of us base our lives and our families and our country used to be based on, you'll like these books. And the way to get to them, or the way to get them, is down below. There are links. I put it in the information section, and then in a pinned comment there's a way that you can either get them through Amazon in paperback or Kindle, or you can get autographed copies from me. And you'll get them faster if you get them through Amazon. To be honest, it takes me a little bit. For instance, I just ran out again, and I've put in another order for more books to be sent to me. That's the way I do it. I order them from Amazon, and then I sign them, and then I ship them out. And Amazon doesn't even though Amazon, you can get stuff tomorrow, if you order it from them. It's not that way when they send authors copies. It takes a couple of 3 weeks very often for them to get, bulk orders to an author. And anyway, thank you all. I mean, it's a good problem to have, right? That I keep running out of books. Apparently, I'm not ordering enough at a time. But if you have ordered it, yes, don't worry, you're going to get it. I'm just got to wait until they get me my next shipment in. But anyway, that's the way to do it. And so Doc Galt on yesterday's reminded everybody these are brought to you by the Stonemont series, and he said the Second Amendment. Now, I used to say that, and as I drank my coffee, I haven't been saying that much lately, and there's kind of a reason why. Steve, are you not a supporter of the Second Amendment anymore? Yes, I am. I am a supporter of the Second Amendment, but I am a supporter of all of those things that people need to do in order to preserve or regain their freedom. And I think the reason that I don't talk about it so much is because, to be real honest, there's way too much talk about it. How can there be too much talk about it? Well, when you have nothing but talk, and I don't need to be another voice in a large choir of people thumping about the Second Amendment, and I'll tell you why. And I know if you feel differently, that's fine. I'll tell you what it kind of reminds me of. Back when I used to teach martial arts, when I'd walk onto the floor, there would always be different groups of people kind of congregating together. You'd have the lower ranks, and then the medium ranks, and then the higher ranks. And the ones that were always talking about fighting and doing this and doing that and doing this and doing that were the lower belts, the ones who didn't really have a grasp on it, kind of were talking about something that they thought about down the road somewhere, but they wanted to talk about it. They talk. The higher you got in the ranks of the guys who were really either doing it or gonna do it, the less talk you had. I'll just leave that out there for anybody to make of what you will. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about this morning was an article that I saw in Breitbart. It says, Texas border sector suspends routine patrols to address facility overcrowding. Okay. I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to give a couple of thoughts, and a couple of my thoughts might surprise you. It's written by Randy Clark, and Clark was he a section chief or what? No, I'm using a I'm using a term from another agency. Let me go down here. Okay, Randy Clark, 32-year veteran of the United States Border Patrol. Prior to his retirement, he served as the division chief for law enforcement operations, directing operations for 9 Border Patrol stations within the Del Rio, Texas sector. Okay, so this is a guy who knows what he's talking about. Now, he doesn't really get in, he does a good job of just pure reporting here. He doesn't get into editorializing much at all. So I'm going to read this, and this should be, very concerning to you. And then I'm going to talk about it for a minute. And then I want to be real interested to hear your all's comments and thoughts on it. Eagle Pass, Texas. Y'all ever been to Eagle Pass? I have. All field operations within the Border Patrol's Del Rio sector were suspended due to overcrowding at processing facilities, according to a source within U.S. Customs and Border Protection. The absence of agents performing their border security mission was noticeable as migrants crossed the Rio Grande and searched for authorities to surrender to on Sunday. And of course, most of you know this. They don't come over here trying to escape. They don't come over and then try not to be caught. They're turning themselves in because they are coming to America, and they want to be taken in by our authorities and then sent around the country and placed places and such as that. Okay. The body of the article says, Breitbart, Texas, posted along several of the busiest crossings along the Rio Grande in Eagle Pass, where migrants continued to surrender to Texas Department of Public Safety troopers and soldiers with the Texas Army National Guard. In one instance, 3 migrants forded the river and attempted to surrender to Breitbart, Texas. The 3 Nicaraguan migrants were directed to state authorities more than 1 mile or 1/2 a mile from their crossing point. Several other migrants crossed the Rio Grande on Sunday unabated by authorities. Immigration and police entities staged in Mexico attempted to stop several migrants from fording the river but were unsuccessful. Well, I call that the big ole. One migrant attempting the crossing struggled with the river's strong currents, but ultimately reached There were no law enforcement officers nearby to receive the migrant, who later searched the banks for authorities where he could surrender. It's not funny, but it's funny, right? The CBP source, not authorized to speak to the media, told Breitbart, Texas, all agents received a radio broadcast early on Sunday removing them from the field. Management advised the agents to report to their respective stations to address the more than 2,500 migrant detainees awaiting processing, and in many cases release them into the United States. At the local non-government shelter in Eagle Pass, multiple busloads of processed migrants were released by the Border Patrol throughout the morning. Each bus carried approximately 50 migrants. The migrants lined up. I skipped a line. Remember how we used to do in 3rd grade? Ooh, I missed that line, Mrs. Johnson. The migrants lined up outside the shelter as employees performed intake duties. The migrants will travel to their final destination in the United States once the shelter staff coordinates transportation arrangements. The source says until the facility overcrowding issue is resolved, the agency will only respond to emergency distress calls involving migrants and to receive migrants that surrender to state and local law enforcement authorities, meaning they're not being allowed to catch them themselves. But if a local or a state guy catches them, then the Border Patrol can go get them. Eagle Pass, which is part of the Del Rio sector, has seen a massive increase in migrant apprehensions in recent months. The city now leads the nation as the border city with the highest migrant crossings nationwide. The increase in migrant traffic brought about a corresponding increase in migrant deaths, so much so that an Eagle Pass funeral home contracted to receive decedent migrants, dead, reached capacity and can no longer accept migrant remains recovered from the river or local ranches. As reported by Breitbart, Texas, 5 migrants drowned attempting to cross the Rio Grande near Eagle Pass during a 3-day span last week. According to CBP source, the absence of routine field patrols along the river and on local ranches heightens the dangers migrants face as the Border Patrol's ability to provide rescue services is eliminated. Okay, I'm not so concerned with the rescue services as I am the protection of our border, as I'm sure you all are. I have some thoughts about this, excuse me. And my thoughts may surprise you, and they might differ from others. I talked about the other day about the fact that an increasing, the Democrats are losing, just as they've lost the black vote. I mean, they haven't lost the entire black vote, but they've lost every voting cycle, every election cycle. They have been losing and continue to lose a higher percentage of the black vote. Well, we know that their original purpose for letting in everyone from south of the border, including people from countries in Asia that hate us, is to do a couple of things, to build up a voting base, to increase their voters, because as more and more Americans, as they're losing the black vote, they're losing every vote except the white female vote. They need to replace those, right? And so they're going to replace them with people who they're kind of bribing with entry to the country. Let us in, we'll let you in. It's kind of like when the Irish, many of us are of Irish extraction, and some of our people came over in during the potato famine in the 1840s, and when they got off the boat with, half of them couldn't speak the language the way it was spoken here. They had no place to go. They had, no way to make a living, whatever. And they got off the boat, and a big guy in a suit down on the pier says, "I'm John O'Malley, and here's a place for you to stay, and here's a job where you go tomorrow, and every time there's a vote, I'll come tell you who to vote for." Okay, that's how American politics has been played forever. So, this is nothing new, but this is something that we're going to be able to turn on them, and stick with me and let me explain. So this is essentially how the Democrats have been doing, and the Democrats always did it that way. I mean, back that the Irish got their stronghold through democratic politics. Interesting, and I do this. I'm not going to get into this, but the Italians were different than that, and I'm going to talk about that over on Patreon. So this is nothing new. It's the way that the Democrats have always bolstered their voting bloc. Well, the thing here is that they've been losing. They thought they were going to bring in all these Latin Americans, and is that the term, or Hispanics, or whatever they are. And I'm talking about them now. I'm not talking about all the Middle Eastern and the Chinese and the Ugandan and all those people that are hidden in these refugee groups. Okay, but they thought, well, they're going to vote for us. What they didn't realize, and what I talked about in a previous one, was that most Hispanics, at their very core, are hard-working conservative people. At their core is religion, a trust and a faith in God, and a dedication to their family, and a dedication to hard work and self-reliance and responsibility. And they've come from countries to where they had to work their asses off just to get by, while worrying about being killed before sundown in many cases. and they hear about this the land of golden opportunity to the north, and they want to get there. They want a piece of it. And I mean, who of us can blame them? Many people came from Europe because, to be real honest, they weren't doing that well in their own countries. I know we like to think that there was these big floods that came over just to build a great country, but a great many people came over here because things sucked in their own European countries. So this is not necessarily all that different. Okay, now for those of you who are yelling and screaming at me, stick with me on this. So they get up here, and they are happy to be here, and they are situated, and they are happy that America has let them in. Now at that point, and you'll see the things, and I'm sure they fall prey for a while to the, Biden welcomes you and all this kind of stuff. That doesn't necessarily last that long. As soon as they get situated and they see how things are, and sure, I mean, if they get up here and their kids are able to be fed, they're going to take part in whatever government assistance they can. How does that make them different than a lot of American citizens, right? Stick with me on this. However, the figures show that the Democrats are losing the Hispanic vote in larger numbers every year. Why is that? Because, as I say, Hispanics are at their core conservatives. And when they see how things are done, and when they look at a Democratic Party that stands against everything that they stand for and stands for everything that they are against, and just take those social issues. Hispanics are not pro-abortion. Okay, they think many of these things, when they learn about them, are just horrible or just ridiculous, and most of them are just hard working. Now there are some bad ones in the bunch, and there are a lot. And the more people you let in, the more bad ones you're letting in. Just like Trump said when he came down that escalator the first time, he says they're not sending their best. Well, he could have phrased that a little bit differently. He could have said, among these throngs of good, hardworking people who want a chance at a better life, there are embedded a number of people who are extremely dangerous to us, okay, and who not only are a danger because of the kind of person they are, but who come here consciously with the purpose of harming our country, either through trafficking of drugs or people, or whatever it is. They bring a lot of crime, So anyway, here's the thing. Our Border Patrol now has been taken off the field, and we know it's not the guys on the front line who want this. They want to be out there doing their job. Here's to you guys, but they're pulled off because of upstairs of a policy that was instituted that allows and invites so many people flooding our southern border that they have to be taken out of the field just to do jobs that they shouldn't have to do, and that's take care of these migrants in the centers and then disperse them throughout our country. How do we fight this? It would be nice to say that we could fight it, through elections, but the thing is without Trump out there making noise about it, the Republicans don't stand up. This is why I'm a supporter of Trump, because the Republicans left to their own facilities don't have the spine. They don't have the backbone to stand up for what's right and to fight for. They might mouth good words around election time, but they won't do it. Trump is the one who got things done. So until he becomes president again, or whether he does or whatever, the Republicans aren't going to do anything about this. What can be done? Well, so anyway, because our border is now essentially opened And our guys, and just because it's the Del Rio sector doesn't mean it's not going to happen someplace else. It's just that they've been overloaded and had to be pulled. They didn't have to be pulled out of the field. There should have been other people taking care of that stuff. Don't we have plenty of unemployed people here in this country taking welfare? They could go down there and take care of those people, and they ought to have to. They ought to have to do something for all the money that we give them. But since this is happening, just yelling and screaming about it isn't fixing it. Now, to the extent that we can fix it through our voting, good. But here's the thing. Here's my different take on it. These are potential. They might think that they're Democrat voters now. Long term, they're not. They are not. These are potential conservative voters. Now, many people out there will say, "Oh, that's pie in the sky. That's what, how do you know?" Well, figures show me that, and I know a lot of Hispanics, and they're all conservative at heart, and I love every one of them that I know. Now, are there some scoundrels? Yeah, there's some scoundrel Americans too. Scoundrel, what a word, right? You only say that when you wear that hat. Probably, maybe so. That airplane has been circling my next door neighbor for quite a while. No, because as they come up here and as they are afforded opportunities and they become believers in the American dream that many of our ancestors saw, they will turn to conservative voters, I'll guarantee you. And so to the how we can deal with this, how we can handle it, since our government is not securing our borders, we have to affect the effect of that internally. Since you can say the border needs to be closed. Okay, we can say that, and I agree. But it's not going to be. At least not for a while. Not now. And we've got thousands, hundreds of thousands of people coming across the border. So we have to do something, right? We're not going to go run around in our own cars and pick them up and take them back, okay? They're here. And in many cases, I'll be honest, I'd rather have a lot of them around here than a lot of people who are already here. I've always said, hey, I'll take all the migrants, the good, hard-working migrants that we can get, if I could just trade them out one for some of the bums we've got living here that populate our jails and our welfare lists and everything like that. Okay. So we have the opportunity to develop. I know it's a huge call. We have the opportunity to develop a conservative wave. Not in the next 2 years, but maybe in the next 8 to 10 years. The conservative wave of people who came here illegally, I give you that, but who came here taking great chances to come up here. You know what they do when they get here? The day after they get here, they're not running. Well, some of them are, and a lot of this is at the behest of our government and looking how to get freebies from living on the government or living on us. They're looking for a job. These people are cleaning hotel rooms and cleaning restaurants and roofing houses and doing a lot of work that, I'll be real honest with you. You know, people used to get upset and say they're doing work that Americans won't do, and then somebody would say, well, I'll do that if they just wouldn't depress the wages and all that. Well, hey, we have millions of Americans, and we need to accept this truth. We have millions of Americans who won't work, who are lazy, who are sissies, who are big wusses. I won't say that. I'd like to say the word that I think of, but that's a little too raw. We have an entire generations, and it's not the young generation. I've got a 16-year-old son with 2 jobs, works his ass off all the time, bought his own car, lays his own tile in his bathroom. So it's not a matter of that. I know just as many worthless idiots in their 40s. And I know some in their 50s and 60s and 70s. Not too many in their 70s, but I know some worthless people in all generations. So it's a matter that we've allowed generation after generation after generation after generation to become soft. And not work. So if we want workers, what do we have to do? I know that I sound like an internationalist. I'm not. I'm an American. I'm a person who wants my country to work the way my country is supposed to work. But it's not. And so I need to find a way to fight back. And so I'm offering that to you all. If these people come, and they're coming, instead of pushing them away, how about if we try to have a positive influence on them, introduce them to conservative American values? And, you know, again, I don't like that conservative, just easier to reversionist. Introduce them to reversionist American values, okay, that center on God, family, and morals, ethics. I would say country is kind of a wishy-washy thing there, okay? The American spirit, the American heart. We can do that. We are going to be turning our enemies' weapons against them. Those are my thoughts. Tell me what you think. Now, for those of you who want to come on and tell me what a horrible, idiotic, insane, ignorant person I am, don't do that, because it'll get you bounced. If you disagree, just come on and say, well, I disagree, and then lay out your case, okay? Because remember, this is a channel where we come on and we discuss things, you know, intelligently and respectfully. That's not for our normal people and our normal subscribers. They already know that. That's for anybody wandering by. So if you disagree with me, that's all right. It's okay. You say, well, Steve, here's why I disagree, and then give me a rational supporting argument, and then everybody can read it. But if if you're just an ass and want to tell me what an ass I am, then nobody will read it, because I will jerk it off. All right. You all, what's happening in our country is happening in our country, and it's up to us to do something about it. And just yelling and screaming about it doesn't do. I mean, you know, it does something, but it doesn't do the whole load that we need it to do. So let me know what you think about that. Remember, America needs a reversion. It needs you to be a part of it. And again, to remind you who this is brought to you by, our sponsor is the Stone Mount series, a series of books that if you believe in the basic principles on which America was founded, you will find a world in here that you will like better than the one we live in today. And I think you'll enjoy it. So the way to find them, like I say, the links are down below. If you want autographed copies, there's a way to do that too. Let me know what you think about today's video, and you have a great day. Have a great day in America, no matter how bad they're trying to make it. It's up to us. My day's always great, and I want yours to be too. So you all have a good one. Let me know what you think down below, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.